Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final game of the American Qualifiers, brought to you by the NA Hub and Monster Energy. We're here as kind of an unfortunate situation. Yesterday, the grand finals were supposed to wrap up. There was a best of 5. The teams took it to a game 5 due to some wonderful play from both Team Liquid and North American Rejects. But unfortunately, there were some severe thunderstorms on the East Coast. A lot of the North American cluster of servers went down. And after multiple delays, we are here today with a postponed Game 5. The draft has already taken place. Valve has dictated that the picks will remain the same and will take over in the game at the 0-minute mark. Guys, this is an interesting situation for these teams. There's a lot of momentum going forward. A lot of people didn't expect Team Liquid to take it to a Game 5. I know on our panel, I think the majority opinion was that NAR was going to take it either 3 games to none or 3 games to 1. I think Gods was the only real dissenting opinion there. NAC, okay, I'm forgetting.
3-2. I called 3-2.
Okay, fair enough. And if you're a team that was coming in, is some of this momentum lost? Is it a little bit different for you having to wait a day on these picks?
Well, you have to imagine that it's going to be. For Team Liquid, they had just gotten a big win to force a Game 5. It looked like, I mean, given how badly the previous game had gone, there had to be an emotional element involved in it. But, you know, at the same time, it goes both ways because you kind of had this weird draft. I mean, just call it what it is. We talked about it almost nonstop throughout the house leading up to, during all of the delays. We were all backstage just talking about it, how bizarre it was. The last pick, Drow Ranger, granted, it is a 5-range lineup, and it's very easy to see what their game plan is going to be. So it's not as if, oh, they've gotten more time to figure this out. They figured it out the moment they saw the Drow Ranger pick. But I agree. There has to be some kind of interplay here in terms of emotional states, in terms of momentum, and in terms of teams. You know, if you're NAR, have you had the last 24 hours to just look at this, go, man, that last pick, and like, so are you coming in almost like at that moment? Do you pick that, go, yeah, we're going to do it because that's our game plan, and have you had time to reconsider? We don't know because we aren't these players, but I think it'd be a mistake to assume that there's not at least an element of that on both sides, or at least on one side.
Indeed. Fear, if you're one of these players, how does that affect you on an emotional level? Like emotional level and like just a strategical level? Because
for waiting like a full day?
Yeah, having to wait a full day with the same picks. Is it a kind of a good thing? Do you like the idea of being able to strategize for that long, or is it something that you could easily overanalyze and maybe think too much into and stress out about?
I think it's something you can overanalyze for sure, but for NAR, everyone's like, okay, they picked Dro, they lost. I don't think
it's that cut and dry.
You don't pick Dro if you don't have a game plan.
Yes.
So they have a game plan for this hero, which may make Liquid overanalyze it. Like, okay, they picked Dro, okay, they have a game plan, what is it? And searching for like the answer for that question.
Yeah.
But as far as that goes, yeah, they may overanalyze this. That's the only problem I have for Liquid. They may overanalyze this. For NAR, I think they just had a set game plan. We're going to pick Dro, a hero that's good at pushing towers, which is what NAR really excels at. And just try to get Roche, another hero that Dro's a good hero for doing Roche as well. So that's something that they're really going to focus on this game. And yeah, when you have to wait a full day, I think it gives an unfair advantage to either or team. It's because you get time to just think about the draft and every possible scenario that you wouldn't have time to do before.
Well, we're about to get started here. Greg, I want your opinion really fast. What do you think? We saw the draft yesterday. We saw how it went through. We're going to have the same picks. Who do you think has the draft advantage?
I like Liquid's draft a lot more. They have a lot of Blink Dagger heroes, which I think you can use pretty easily against Drow. And then the only other option, really, that we see a lot for a Dro is a Shadowblade. And there's a Slardar on the other team as well. So she's going to have to be very careful, play around that. You can still use it to initiate, but if you don't kill the person you're looking for, then you could be in a lot of trouble. So I like Liquid's draft a lot. I think it's a little bit more aggressive. And they also have SF for Quakefa, and he really impressed me on that hero yesterday, especially on Radiant.
Yeah, Quakefa's been really dominant. All right, with that, guys, we're going to hop into the draft really fast, and the game is about to start, so we'll probably see the last pick and go right into it, guys. You're watching Game 5 of the North American Qualifiers. The winner gets a direct invite to Seattle. The loser has to play their way in through a wild card match. Let's go in.
As we can see, the draft that we saw yesterday being replicated. The bands may be a little bit different. As don't know that those are the same bands. Doubt the first pick, first band, Clinks and Meepo was reality. But yeah, without a doubt, everything that we've talked about is coming into play here. I especially like what Greg had to say. It was something that I even said on stream yesterday, too, you have so many mobility heroes in the Wraith King, who very often will get a Blink Dagger. Even if not first item, he'll get it at some point. TC, obviously, on a very, very fast Blink Dagger item for the most part in the Slarter. And then Puck, who doesn't even need a Blink if he doesn't want it to be able to get on top of a Drow Ranger. But the other side of that is, when you're talking about these Blink Dagger heroes, they kind of need to get a Blink Dagger, which means there's going to be time. There's going to be time that they need to farm, at time that they need to try and get things accomplished, get their core items up. That is the window I think NAR is going to be trying to walk through with this heavy push-oriented lineup. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically NAR's objectives right here for the most part is this Slarter Blink Dagger, it's going to be hard to stop. Like, he's going to be free farming bottom lane. For 7 minutes you can farm that Blink Dagger. It's going to be nearly impossible for them to stop Slarter from getting a Blink Dagger. But looks like we're going to have a smoke gank. They might be able to catch out Korok here. He does have boots on the Shadow Demon, but I don't think there's any follow-up.
Yep, looks like he's going to be able to scurry to safety. There is one other target over slightly to the west, and that's going to be the Dazzle. Looks like Fogged, obviously fairly well aware of it, and he's actually lingering a little bit longer than he really should, and immediately we see Way 2 pinging. He got vision of him, but we'll be able to make it up to the Tier 1, so it looks like we're going to escape the first minute or so with no first blood on the board. The teams are beginning to set up in the lanes, and as we wait, let's take a look at who's handling who, and take a look at the lineups. And again, just to restate the importance of this match, it is a match in which one of these teams is directly seeded into the 16-team international bracket. The other will still be going to Seattle, even if they lose, but then they'll have to fight through a field of other second-place qualifying teams, which is going to be no small task.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be really hard. It's
going
to be very difficult for them. It's going to be the best of the best from each region. So each of these teams definitely want to get a direct invite here.
All right, so let's take a look at our lineups and see who's handling who as the laning phase takes shape. It'll be Puck being handled by Bulba out in this off lane. We can see him doing a little blocking. It'll be Koikva in mid doing the same thing on that Shadow Fiend. We'll talk a little bit about that pick coming up. Waitsu is going to be on the Wraith King, as we saw, pinging out earlier, unable to catch up with his target. That's going to be Demon, playing under the name Pegasus, as he often does, on the Shadow Demon, and TC farming that ever-important Slarter. And we'll talk a lot about that moving forward, I'm sure. On the other side of the river, it's going to be Brax taking the Bad Rider into the off lane. In mid, the matchup going to be Korok on that TA going one-on-one with Koikva. And on the way up, we see a haste ring picked up by 1437. Let's see what he wants to do with it. Looks like not a whole lot, so we'll continue to look at the rest of the lineups. That'll be 1437 on the Enchantress. It's going to be Snake King farming the Drow, and Fog on that Dazzle. So which of these lanes do you think is going to be the one to watch?
Well, for now, the lane to watch right now will be mid, because he is going for a courier snipe. And after that, they're gonna be pretty passive lanes for the most part. But if this chicken goes down with the bottle, it's gonna be huge. He's gonna find it, one more hit, and it's gonna go down.
Oh wow, that is huge.
It is massive. He's getting slow too, but it doesn't look like there's gonna be follow-up.
Yep, too many creeps, and would have been really risky to try to dive that out. But, you know, I'm actually a little surprised they made that mistake all through the Americas qualifiers and on into the Southeast Asia qualifiers. We've seen teams just aware that that could be coming if there's someone missing off the map, and they're even microing the courier around to take strange paths. That time it was just on a dead B, and a bit of a mistake there, without a doubt.
It's a little harder to actually know when an Enchantress does it, because when you see like a Shadow Demon or something missing off the map, he has to be doing something with this time. Whereas Enchantress, you can just assume she's in the jungle farming up. So that was actually a really smart play from 1437. One thing you have to note about these games is both of these teams are going to be playing their lineup to near perfection because they've had plenty of time to theorycraft on how they want to play this.
Oh, without a doubt. And like you said, I'm sure at this point, at least for the first 10 minutes when things are a little bit more calm and predictable, each team comes in with a script, literally a script of, we need this at this time, we need this at this time, we can expect this much CS, this much gold at this time, and so on. So 2 minutes in, we don't have a first blood, but a bit of a lead going away. Hang on. Brack's going to be spotted by Way2. Throws out the Hellfire Blast. He denies the rune and then Fireflies to safety. So he's going to be all right with that result. Let's talk a minute about the Shadow Fiend pick, which is actually being completely crushed in mid right now. TA at 14 CS, while Koikva is sitting at just 4. We've seen Shadow Fiend resurge hugely throughout the qualifiers. Give me a breakdown on that.
Well, basically, Shadow Fiend's one of those heroes that can just farm the jungle quickly, spam his waves, and bottle Crow. And the really smart thing they did there is they killed the chicken. So he used all of his mana early to get that bottle, and then the bottle was denied from him. So that's going to give TA free reign over this lane. Shadow Fiend's going to have a rough time, and this is exactly what NAR needed to do to get ahead in this game. On top lane here, it looks like Bulb is just going to be getting harassed out, have to force the orb. But other than that, Shadow Fiend, if he does not have his bottle and cannot bottle Crow, you're going to see his weaknesses here. He doesn't have early souls. It looks like we're going to have a little bit of a lag spike. But the downside for both these teams is going to be Shadow Fiend is going to get shut down hard. But the plus side for Liquid is they also shut down the jungle for NAR, which is going to be extremely important for them as well. The Enchantress needs to get into the jungle, needs to farm it up, and on top of that, Batrider also needs to get in there and farm up as well. So with that being blocked out for the most part, both these teams are going to have a little bit of a disadvantage going into the early game.
Yeah, we can see, and we actually didn't talk all that much about it, but see the wards that are in there trying to keep things blocked, the hard camp there, and the hard camp over towards the base, closer towards the base. And we can see the warding was done by NAR as well. But shutting down the jungle, pretty big deal, especially when you have two heroes that are really dependent on that. But I feel like the Shadow Fiend being on the back foot as much as he is right now is really going to be a huge factor going forward because, given the best of starts, a Shadow Fiend still needs time. He's going to be able to show up to fights if he needs to, use raises, but he still is not going to be that huge source of damage that you really want him to be, at least until he gets a BKB. He can feel a little bit more comfortable standing and just trading blows. With this kind of a start, the most common build we see is Midas into BKB, something along those lines. That seems forever away, and in the meantime, TA at 22 CS at 3 minutes, a command performance out of Korok right now.
Yeah, for right now, we were questioning, all right, NAR has to get a lot done within this early game if they want to accomplish what they need to accomplish come the mid game, and that is going to be their lineup, just by nature, has to get a lot done before they get the Blink Daggers up, before Shadowfiend gets too farmed. And a key part of that was how much progression is Shadowfiend going to make in the early stages of the game.
Right.
The second thing they need to take a look at and kind of need to stop is the Blink Dagger progression coming from the Puck and the Slaughter. As I said, Slaughter is very hard to stop, but it looks like they're doing a great job keeping the Shadow Fiend down and the Puck, which I think is enough for them to accomplish what they want to accomplish this game.
Oh yeah, the Drow Ranger's farming very well on her own. She's got 24. She's almost on par with Korok out of mid, so everything's seeming to go the way of NAR now. If you're in the shoes of Team Liquid, you're certainly aware of everything we've been talking about. What's the adjustment, if any, that you're going to make to try to get things a little more favorable here in the early game?
I mean, at this point, they just need to keep locking down the Batrider and keep trying to... Yeah, at this point, it's all Batrider right now. If they can stop this Batrider from getting a Blink Dagger, and they can get their Blink Dagger on Slaughter, that's going to be the word for them to actually just go and get back into this game. But if they can't get any... if they can't stop this Batrider, I feel like NAR is going to have the potential to snowball this game out of control. Get some towers, get picks with Batrider, then go straight into the Roche Pit. So I think a lot's going to hinge on what Batrider can accomplish.
Worth mentioning, too, Bulba on the Puck is certainly not having the best of times up there. He's been able to soak up some experience just due to the general elusiveness of a Puck. I mean, he's almost level 3, but even that's not outstanding. And he's got a grand total of 1 CS that he can claim for himself at the moment. So Bulba being very much slowed and very much shut down. We do see some help coming into mid now for Liquid, some stacking for Shadow Fiend, and that's just so desperately needed.
Yeah, and he will have his bottle now, and luckily for Shadowfiend, he is a hero that can recover quickly. But unfortunately, Quakefoot is one of those players that likes to get his Midas up around the 7-8 minute mark, and it's going to be a lot harder to accomplish now that he had this bad of a start. And Korok is just dominating right now as far as CS goes.
And Brax eats a crush, takes a right click or two, but yeah, it's a two-pronged problem. It's not just that Quakefoot's being slowed down, but Liquid's really doing a really good job of getting him back into shape. By stacking out these jungle camps and really dedicating a lot of assistance. He went from having next to nothing to now having 22 CS, so he's at least in range. Still quite a ways away from that Midas. Should be coming out a little bit later than he normally would like, as you said. We can see Brax is actually going to be crushed. He's going to be pursued there. He's hit with the amplified damage. Mass TPs are going to be forced, and one will be canceled. Fogged is the one who does show up. But still, even that's a win. You force more time, you take more pressure off of the map, and that's going to give them a little bit more time for Bulba, for example. 1437 doing an excellent job, though, of zoning him between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 top.
Indeed, and what does Korok have coming out? Just the bottle. So he's going for the treads, not going for that early Midas that a lot of TA players like to go for. And one thing that's a little surprising for me is the levels on the supports on Liquid. I thought they would have a much easier time getting levels in that lane, but they're struggling a little bit. They're only level 3 right now, where in the Enchantress, she had her entire jungle blocked, but still managed to grab level 4.
And here comes that push power that we knew we were going to see as early as humanly possible for NAR. That Tier 1 almost all the way down. It's down to about 1/6 of its health, if even that. And yeah, this is looking very problematic. We don't have any kills on the board, but just overall efficiency. I'm really troubled by the Puck in particular. He finally just hit level 3, but usually a Puck in the offlane can do a little bit of a better job than we're seeing, and that's to say nothing of his lack of gold. He's just going to be very delayed in terms of how much impact he can have. And if you look back to yesterday, Bulba was a huge impact the last time he played Puck, so certainly not going to be in the same great shape he was then.
Yeah, he's struggling so hard. Drow Ranger is actually one of the better heroes at dealing with Puck, especially when she gets level 6. She can deny almost every single creep in front of Puck, and there's nothing he can do about it. Just the damage, discrepancy in their damage is insane. So no matter what, he is going to be getting like half experience on most all these creeps, and Fog did an exceptional job of zoning him for the first 5 minutes of this game.
Again, let's take a look at the gold graph and see the overall efficiency gain. Just, yeah, I mean, we're talking 3,000 and 1,500 efficiency and nothing but golden experience. That is huge, given there's not a single tower down.
Yeah, it is. This is what NAR needs to do. They need to get these towers, though. What's going to be really important for them is how fast they can get these Tier 1 towers down. With most NAR games, it depends, like, their success is how fast they can take the Tier 1s and start getting objectives and start snowballing off that. Krok is going for a more mid-game build as well. He's going to go for the drums. So I do like this a lot, because Slaughter, when he does get his blink, which he's very close to, won't be able to kill the TA. That's the hero I'm looking for, as easily as he wants to. It looks like they're going to be going on top lane on that Drow Ranger.
There's a disruption. They're going to try to follow it up, but the tower ends up dropping. Wasn't denied either. Quakefa actually did manage to get his Midas up at 8 minutes, and to tell you the truth, like, you got to give him credit for that, as it just came out, but that is owed so much to Liquid, just rotating supports in to stack the jungle and make sure that that was there for him to fall back on.
Yeah, they sacrificed a lot on their supports to get the Shadow Queen back in the game, which is going to be a problem. If they don't have this level 6 on the Wraith King, he's level 4. Wraith King, I feel like, as a support, doesn't do anything except for helping the lane phase a little bit until he has his ult up. And then when he has his ult up, you basically, it's a team fight winning button. It's actually not even a button, it's just a passive. But as soon as he dies, it wins you a team fight straight up, because it's so hard to fight against that.
Well, we can see Snaking really liking the way that this top lane is played out. There's even a medallion picked up on the Enchantress. That comes back to what you were talking about, how good of a hero Drow Ranger is to take Roshan. She has the Mask of Madness up now, so with the medallion and the Mask of Madness up, Roshan is going to be a very quick target. Look how low the Tier 1 mid is as well. So as of right now, everything that was talked about by myself, by you, by every other analyst, it seems like NAR has accomplished every single one of those objectives.
Yeah, and what's worrisome for me is this Slardar, he does have a fairly fast Blink Dagger, but he's sitting at 40 CS, and the top two are both sitting at like 68, 70 CS right now, and their lineup is insane for killing Roshan. They have Enchantress with Untouchable, they have Refraction, they have Medallion, and they have Drow's just pure right-click damage to kill it. It looks like they're not even going to show Drow into their pit, and they're just going to smoke in with Enchantress and Clock. So and they only need those two with the Medallion. Will they be able to find this out?
Yep, there's Brax. He's going to be disrupted. TC there to follow it up with the crush. This should be our first blood, and it will be. But honestly, if they go and check the pit, it won't be worth it.
They might be able to fight this. They can probably fight this.
TC's going to rush in, and there's going to be the stomp from the Centaur. Buy some time. Dazzle's right there with him. Here comes Quakefa doing good damage. 1-4-3-7, caught with a couple of raises. He'll be cleaned up on the high ground with the last raise from Quakefa. TC, though, could be a return kill. Great Hellfire Blast. Still not enough to save him, and now Way2 is able to make it away. Problem is, they traded 2 for 2 there as the puck also died. Yes, and Roshan is now still going to go to NAR.
Roshan has fallen to the
This couldn't be going for NAR right now. If there was one thing they needed to do, it was they needed to get early Roche, they need to get towers, and they need to keep the pressure. The one thing Dro is really bad at is playing in a game that's even. I feel like Dro is one of those heroes, especially when you're playing against heroes like Puck, who gets that Blink Dagger, Sarter, who does get that Blink Dagger and can get on top of you, and if she does not have any protection as far as like an Aegis or a BKB, or is really far ahead in items, she can just feed really hard, but she's off to a great start. So if there was a way to make Drow work, they are playing it correctly.
Well, I'll tell you what I really love about the way they did that is the Drow would have made that Roshan faster and less risky, but by keeping her on the map, you know, you could tell Liquid was checking almost just kind of because they were there. It wasn't like, oh, there's definitely a Roshan going on. Not only did they free up space for her to farm very effectively and to continue to push lanes, but they also were able to take a break even at the Roche pit, which is more than worth it given they came out of that with all the experience from Roshan, all of the gold, and especially with that Aegis. And now Brax, who maybe was the weakest link on the side of NAR, taking to the jungle, and look how well stacked all of this is, and not a mud golem to be seen.
Yeah, he will have his blink now. This is a little late timing, but they do get the tower on top. Looks like Clark will have it. He does have the Aegis.
Up atop, Fog going to be engaged. If Fog gets down the weave, he's going to be dead for sure. So Liquid, taking what they're given and taking a kill up at top, they lead 3-2. But this hole is still, even with that, this hole is still getting very, very deep. Look at this, pure gold earned. That's nothing but efficiency plus 2 towers, and they're 10K ahead at 11.5 minutes in. This is what we knew they had to do, snowball out of control.
Yeah, come to the 15-minute mark, if Liquid doesn't put in a lot of work or keep this game flatlined, they're going to be in major trouble. Because right now, I can guarantee you, NAR is looking at this bottom tower right now, the last tier 1 in the game. They still have the Aegis up on Korok. I may have liked to see that on Snaking instead, but it's alright on Korok as well. And they're just going to group up and probably look for a pick with this fresh Blink Dagger on the Batrider. I should see a smoke coming out. Yep, there is a smoke coming out on Batrider. He's looking around, trying to protect any ganks that are coming towards Snaking and maybe get the jump on them so they can get 2 towers, not even one. I think they can't even defend that tier 1, and they're going to go for a tier 2.
Looks like Liquid knows what's going on. They're all the way on the other side of the map. They knew that tower was going to get pushed and still didn't rotate, but now, like you said, they have to get in a position. They can't just give up tier 2s at this stage of the game. Do you think they have the firepower to defend this?
What's their Blink situation? Puck does not have a Blink. No. They have a level 4 Shadow Demon, level 6 on Wraith King. They can fight here if they're in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Like, this is a waste of their time. They can't even defend this. There's no TP scroll on TC.
Wow.
The best they can do is maybe go for a trade on the mid, but if NAR wants to, they're not going to stop on bottom. They're going to pressure this tier 3 once they see there's no teleport scroll on any of these heroes.
I thought at least they would shove in top lane and maybe try to trade to tier 1. That way, if they went fishing and didn't find anything on their hook, they get something out of it. Like you said, that's just a total waste of time. And this is really beginning to feel like a desperate situation for Liquid. I mean, look at the net worth. Koikva's the only one remotely in range of the top 5 at this point. Slarder's less farmed than 1437's Enchantress, who had his jungle blocked for the first 5 minutes.
And Koikva is going for an early Yasha. I'm not sure about this. He's going to be so squishy. Like, Brax might be able to get on.
There we go. They managed to get TC. There's the weak. I can't even call it as quickly as he melted.
And Snaking's going to get another one, too.
Yep, Snaking right on top of the Shadow Demon. Keep in mind, Snaking doesn't have the Aegis. He has to keep himself safe. It's on Korok. Korok going to follow it up, and they're going to lose Demon at the same time. Brax actually the one to secure that kill. And now this tier 3.
Might be in for a quick game.
Yeah, this really might be as quick as it looks like. There's a buyback from the Shadow Demon. Absolutely, desperately necessary. But Korok has 2 lives to give. Wraith King going to come out. Look at this. He's just being completely blasted. There's a good coil, though. That caught 4. Let's see if they can get anything out of it. There's no engagement afterwards. Hellfire Blast on the 1437. Not going to be the changing moment. And let's see if they are going to pull back. So it looks like they don't want to take any chances. I'm actually a little surprised they pulled back there, given they did have the Aegis to give away.
Yeah, I think it was the right call, though, because if they lost the team fight right then and there, that would have gave Liquid everything they needed to get back in this game. They're desperately looking for these levels and these Blink Daggers up on all their heroes, and if they would have lost that fight there, that would have blew the game wide open for Liquid. So I think it's a smart call to back up. Get your items up. I'm sure they have a lot of gold that they need to spend right now, and then just go again with this huge advantage they have. Fighting right there with a lot of gold in the bank, trying to break a tier 3 at 14 minutes in the game, and if that failed, that would have been disastrous for them.
Yep, excellent point. And yeah, I mean, they've worked this hard to get this advantage. Why take the chance on throwing it away, right?
Yeah.
Puck is getting very close to his Blink Dagger. Actually, check that. He just bought it.
And that's going to be the item. I mean, that's going to be the hero to look at when come this next engagement.
Bulba has to play like he did yesterday.
Yeah, and TC, he can't get caught out like that. He has his Blink Dagger. He's not tanky. When you rush a Blink Dagger, it's not like you go with a Vanguard build or a BKB rush. He dies very quickly. So if he gets caught out like that again, they're going to lose the team fight straight up, because he needs to be the one initiating on top of that Drow Ranger, making sure she gets no damage done, and then the follow-up from Puck. So they have the tools right now on Liquid to defend, and it's just a matter, I guess it's just up to watch now to see if they can execute.
Anytime they're out of position, I mean, they're not even going to contest this. Snaking got there first. They don't have a glyph. He pops Mask of Madness. It's gone. Like, there's just no way they can go, okay, they're chipping in our tower. Let's get in the position set for a team fight. There's just no time. And NAR, you know, you don't want to meta game it too much, but, you know, obviously this was the plan going in. We all knew that. Do you think they had more time, or that the extra time benefited them? Because it certainly looks like they've come out just with their hair on fire, ready to take this game in quick fashion.
I think both teams had a strategy from the early game to like kind of screw over the enemy, and NAR's objective was to get the courier snipe and screw over the Shadow Fiend. And Liquid's objective was 5-man the jungle quickly, make Enchantress not get creeps to gank with. But Enchantress did a really smart thing, is she didn't even gank with the creep, she just went with her hero. So all those wards they used to like keep her down, like, she found a way to do something still with nothing. So 1437, in my opinion, just kind of gave the opening that NAR needed to win this game.
Yep. And, I mean, coming up to that courier snipe, and you have to go back to that because it's one reason Koikva is such a small factor. And even at this stage of the game, a Shadow Fiend should be a little bit more impactful.
Oh, and Wraith King on top. He does have the ult still.
Nope, he's dead. They may get him twice. They've got a whole team there. They're going to be teleporting in help. And there's the flame break. Yeah, he's going to be disrupted. Good disruption, but Demon going to end up dead because of it. Way 2 still there. Doesn't have the ulti. Koikva's ult goes off. The coil is holding 3 in place, but the damage is just too high. That honestly, I mean, TC comes in. Look at him melt! The damage output is absolutely through the roof. Between the medallion, between Weave, they can't stand in these fights at all. And Liquid, having their back broken, they are absolutely down to their last gasp of air here in this best of 5.
That will, Korok is going to have his Manta now, Fog is going to have his Mech, Snaking has his BKB, and Brax has his Force Staff. With those item pickups, Liquid is just too far behind to defend their towers against a lineup like this. I feel like they've ran out of gas here.
Yeah, there's a Weave just to help out. I mean, amplified damage in the face of Weave isn't even that scary whenever you're this under-leveled. And yeah, this tier 3, I don't know how they're going to stop this. I mean, like you said, every item that they needed to have is out already. And Snaking's going to finish out the tier 3 and very wisely pull back for the reasons we talked about before. Even though they probably could have pressured that, just no reason to worry about it.
Yeah, the BKB is a huge item for him right now. It's on the chicken. Mech is also a huge item for them. That's also on the chicken. So they're just going to wait for those 2 items, and I guarantee you they're going to look to either wait for the next Roche, which is a smart idea, I think. I think they can wait for the next Roche in the game with these core items while Liquid's still struggling. Like Quakefa, he went for a Yasha. I'm not sure what the point of this was. I mean, granted, they don't have that much magical damage, pretty much little to none, and they do have the lasso, so BKB isn't the greatest choice for him here. And he's just in a rough situation overall. Like, what item can I build to kind of, like, help my team win this game? With the rough start he did have, he needs to have, like, 2 or 3 items above, like, the enemy team right now for him to be a huge factor. It looks like Liquids realizes they're in big trouble when they're going to go out for a 5-man smoke gank around the Roche pit.
Definition of a desperation gank. They know this game has all but slipped away from them, and their last little finger hold is going to be maybe getting a big pick near the Roche pit where they know NAR is going to be camped. There's going to be a Satyr who runs up that way. It's sidestepped by the Invis. Now they're going to go if they can get Korok. It could be a big turning point now. Brax is there to counter-initiate those. He lassos TC. Korok teeing off on them, and all of Liquid failed to break the high ground there. Now they're going to be caught by a side trap that slows 3. Quakefa doing what damage he can with Raze's defensive disruption from Demon, buys him some time. But now, GG's called. Just like that. We knew it was a desperation gank. We knew they had to have something, some little breath of air, something to keep them from drowning. But in the end, NAR makes use of their time off. The draft that everyone doubted and tweeted about pays off. 11-3, the final kill score. And a 19-minute, 20-second win that will send NAR directly into the bracket at the International 2014 coming up in Seattle this July. Liquid still going to Seattle, but they've got a much longer road ahead of them now.
Indeed they do. And with this lineup in particular, NAR, we talked about it before the draft happened, they have to make 0 mistakes for this lineup to really shine. And they made 0 mistakes.
Literally 0.
0 mistakes. The only mistake I saw potentially being a problem was Batrider got picked off by the Roche pit, gave the first blood. I'm not sure why he was there, but it didn't really matter in the end. They already had tower advantage. They were already in the pit. Roche was almost dead. They had positioning. So small mistake, not really a big mistake, and they were able to play that almost perfectly.
Well, guys, I mean, I think we said about everything there's to say.
Yeah.
NAR just executed to perfection.
They did.
Literally to perfection. I mean, you're always going to give up a kill or 2 here or there. But other than that, their game plan went flawlessly.
All right. I was talking to some members of NAR last night because we actually have Giannis Fogg joining us, and we had to push back his flight because he was supposed to be coming out here today, but he had a game to play. So I was talking to him. We got done finishing his flight information up, and he was like, "How do you feel about our draft?" And I was like, a lot of people are flaming it, but you wouldn't have drafted something like that unless you had a game plan in a grand finals. So like I was saying, I trust your draft. I think you guys know what you're doing. And I said, but you better pray for some centaurs on Enchantress to shut down Quake for early, is what I said. And he was like, well, we might not need them. And he gave me like a little smiley face. So I think what happened, no. I don't think he meant that in like we'll shut him down anyway. I think what it meant is they realized that if you can snipe a courier for someone like a Shadow Fiend early, you don't have to rotate on him anymore. Yep. You don't have to worry about invading every single one of his camps and forcing fights at 5 minutes with your supports by invading camps or roaming on him constantly. If you can do something as simple as getting a courier kill early, for the next 3 or 4 minutes, you don't really have to pay attention to mid lane anymore.
Specifically in that matchup, I want to say.
When you have a Templar Assassin, exactly.
Templar Assassin can just apply so much pressure with refraction damage, with side blades, and he wasn't really able to recover in lane. He had to go to the jungle. It didn't really work out for them. They rotated so many supports into the jungle to stack everything up, and as a result, they were super underleveled. And then when fighting time came, there was just way too much damage from NAR with those underfarm supports, the underleveled supports, and they just didn't really have an opportunity to even fight, to be honest.
Yeah. And the Drow Ranger was just able to like have a really
just push
easy
down
and safe
all the
lane.
towers.
Like going up against Puck is pretty easy lane from Drow Ranger. Fear was talking about how ridiculous the base damage discrepancy is between the heroes. It's just.
And plus, the Frost Air Harass is hard to deal with, even in the earlier stages of the game, because you don't redirect creep aggro if you not autocast, but just manually click it, click on the hero, so you can push him out of the lane with his long range and the slow.
Yeah, it was rough for Bulba how many times he was trying to, last hit, he was trying to fake shots, and they were going back and forth, and it didn't matter. Staking just denied it when it got low enough. It's just, when there's such a big base damage discrepancy, like, it doesn't even matter how good your mechanics are in terms of last hitting. If the other player has 40 damage up on you, there's just nothing you can do.
I think bottom lane didn't go quite as well as Liquid was hoping either.
No, it didn't.
TC did an okay job getting his Blink Dagger, but from there on out, he didn't really get another item until the game ended.
They really needed that Roche fight to go much better. That first blood engagement was good, but when they turned around and went into the Roche fight, that was a fight they really needed to win. If they're going to push that fight, they have to win that. Otherwise, they just really get themselves on the back foot.
Yeah, I think sorry, so we're talking about on the bottom lane there. The big problem for them was like they had to rotate the supports to stack for the Shadow Fiend because of that courier snipe, which gave Brax a lot of space to get his levels.
Right.
Underleveled Wraith King as well. You talked about that. Just you're spending all that time having to rotate your supports. They're not able to pressure anywhere else. Even Brax, like you said, able to get a quick Blink Dagger because of it, because of all the pressure that was taken off of them. So it seems to me like, and like you said, talking to Fogged, whenever he drew the little smiley face, I would say it even went beyond that. They know Liquid certainly quite well, as you would imagine. So they probably went into that going, they're going to ward 1437's camps. They're going to do that. Yeah. So why don't we just not make his early game at all contingent on doing well there, and let's give him another objective, and he got it.
I think another thing that was really important there, or we were talking about the Wraith King, I think he's one of the more hit or miss like early game supports, right? If you don't get a good roam off early, you don't have level. Like, so the thing with Wraith King that's good about him is that he roams well, and then he can go into farm the jungle when he gets a couple of points up in Vampire Core and a couple of items, right?
Right.
If you have a bad early game and you're just walking around in the jungle not getting kills, you're level 2, you have nothing but brown boots, and you don't even have an urn yet or anything, you can't even really jungle at that point. So you're just sitting there like, what, do I stand in lane and take experience from my carry and do nothing? I can't kill the Batrider by myself unless he goes off into the river.
Right.
I can't go all the way up top and help Bulba get last hits in that lane. I mean, I could try, but it might not do anything with it. I'm not ganking and roaming effectively. Yeah. So it's just a hero that really, if he doesn't get an amazing first 5 to 10 minute start, can be really underwhelming.
And as a result, he just had to sit in the jungle and help Quick of a farm.
Yeah,
that's what it came down.
It's like, let me stand near you so you can get my life steal. I'm a walking Helm of the Dominator.
I think it was a little bit of a mistake from Liquid as well to run in a passive tri-lane. I think an aggressive tri-lane could have been a good option from the Shadow Demon, Wraith King, and the Slaughter. If you go on top of the Drow Ranger, she dies instantly, especially if you ward all of the camps. Right. The Enchantress, she can't even roam. And that's what Dro's biggest weakness is she is really bad in the laning phase. All she has is a little bit of a slow. And since they lost their courier there, gave Dro a perfect start, they weren't able to really come back there.
Right. Well, all right, guys. That was your grand finals of the American qualifiers. It finishes up with Team North American Rejects getting first place. They will go directly into the International 4. As one of these top 16 teams. Team Liquid, they will be traveling to Seattle as well. They won't be having to stick at home. They will be able to go, but they're going to have to fight for that spot. They will fight in the wild card match against the second place teams from the SEA, China, and Europe qualifiers. So it's been a good qualifiers as a whole.
Oh yeah.
If we want to just take a step back, what was your thoughts on the American qualifiers as a whole? Did it go how you expected? What do you think?
I mean, there were some surprises. Obviously, me among them. Thought Revenge would do better than they did.
Right.
But then you had Union Gaming, who did better than anyone expected as well. So you trade one for another in terms of expectation for surprise. The three teams that everyone knew to look out for, NAR, Sneaky Nick's Assassins, and Team Liquid, did end up going deep. No real surprise there. Right. But I think at times, if I'm going to pick something obscure that's not been overanalyzed and done to death, we did see some flashes of brilliance from some of these teams that almost no one was paying attention to. And we did see some standout performances from players who maybe their team didn't do as well as they would like. But, like Ewo. I mean, that's a guy who I think is going to have a chance to really do something special looking ahead to the next year and trying to build a team. And there's, you can go down the line. Some of us saw more more matches with other teams than others. But Smash is another guy who I think people are going to recognize as supremely skilled individually if they can just get the right people around him. So I think it's an encouraging sign not only for the quality of play at the top for the Americas, but I think there's also a lot of room at the bottom for some of these players to begin to come together and form much better teams overall.
I think something else we saw a lot of was a lot of similar drafts. I mean, it seems like a lot of teams are really playing after the style that EG sort of started, to be honest. And SEA, it's been a lot different already. We had a lot of games last night. It's Brewmaster every game, way more Invoker. We've had some pretty crazy picks as well. I've had like 2 Quap games. I had a Tri-Lane Tinker. That one didn't really work, but I guess you can't win them all. But SEA qualifiers so far have been pretty interesting.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us here at the NA Hub for this period of the day. In about 7 hours, we'll be coming back to you. We are starting at 9 o'clock Pacific time again today. That's right. So in 7 hours, you can come back on and join us. We'll probably bring out the stream about an hour earlier, so you can probably join us at 6 hours from now as we go through day 2 of the group stages of the SEA qualifiers. We've already had amazing games, so you won't want to miss it.